Right, hello again, and welcome to the closing overs of this Football League One season, and to the latest pod from the ShrimpNet. Thank you for listening. As we approach the last two weekends, as usual, the Shrimps are keeping it all on our toes and making it, as usual, very interesting. Joining us to discuss the victory at the Valley and the crunch final home game with Lincoln, we have long-time Radio Lancashire commentator and long-time MFC programme editor, Derek Quinn. Quinny, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
So where do we start? Well, obviously, we said 2 weeks ago, it doesn't matter what happens with other teams, we have to win all four games. And so we had 4 cup finals, and we're 2 cup finals down. So as one fan kindly put it, we're in the quarters. You know, we're in the last 32. We need to get the last 16. We need to get to the last 8. We've just done that, haven't we? We're in the last 4 now. We just need to beat Lincoln, beat Exeter, and hope things go for us. But beating Charlton at the Valley, second season running by the same scoreline, Joel, you couldn't write it, could you?
Yeah, and I mean, not quite the same score development throughout the game. Obviously, Charlton equalised this year. They didn't equalise last year, but to be 3-1 up and then concede a goal pretty much bang on 80 minutes, like we did last year, and make the last 10 minutes properly freaky. It was a bit tricky watching the updates for that, I can't lie. But I mean, actually, quickly on that game, actually, I was shamefully, I was at the Giant Axe. I had a family thing on the Saturday night that had already been planned. So
Quinny, I'd have gone.
Terrible. But so I was there, and then I spotted another couple of Morecambe fans. Well, actually, they spotted me in the crowd, and we were shouting updates to each other across the Giant Axe stand. So while we were
in between shouts of Geisley,
yeah, in between shouting for Geisley, we were kind of jumping up and going, "Get in there, Stockton!" Which I would say is a dangerous thing to do at the Giant Axe, but there simply aren't enough fans there to make it dangerous. That's not a dig for you. But no, yeah. Just the last 10 minutes were very tense. But I've watched the game back, obviously, and yeah, it was really impressive how just at it we were. The way we kind of pursued the game in the first kind of 10, 15 minutes, actually in the entirety of the first half, the intensity we showed. I think we spoke after the Portsmouth game. Well, obviously we only drew, but we were really happy with the intensity that we showed to really battle with Portsmouth, and we felt it was an intensity that we've not really shown much away from home at all this season. And then we upped it, and we did that against that similar kind of intensity against Charlton, and then given a little leg up by Stockton, seemingly very, very G'd up by his last-minute winner in front of the Barter card against Wickham, banging it in from 30 yards. But not only that, I think with Stockton, the headlines, the goals, obviously, and yeah, they are quite some goals, aren't they? But at the same time, the thing I like to focus on is his all-round target man play, which was, particularly in the first half, absolutely exceptional. The way he took his first touches and held people off. He fought defenders for the ball, like Michael Hector, who was a top-end championship defender a few years ago. He's bullying him. The first touches were sublime, the way he brought all this into play. But then doing that and then turn around, look for the run, get into the area. Where can I pull the defence about? Where can I get into scoring areas? Or where can I make space for other people? All that part of his game, it was there. And obviously the little back heels and the nutmegs, lovely to see. So when he does that kind of thing, obviously he's got a better chance of scoring, but as a whole, the team has a better chance of scoring because he's able to bring us up the pitch and get us set up there. And it was fantastic to see and really, really impressive. So really pleased with that. Hopefully he's able to carry it on. And just from the team as a whole, Crowley, looks like Derek's kind of found a nice little formula with Crowley and Weir kind of interchanging from number 10 to the wing. Who are making a couple of nice runs forward. Gibson and Osterfield doing that kind of very solid job in midfield, but they're also able to progress the ball a bit. It's really good. We're really happy with it. Rawson and Bedell forming that good partnership, Lion and Gazelle, cat and dog, whatever you want to call it. And then you got Ripley to back up on. So yeah, it feels like we found a bit of a formula. We've got some momentum. So hopefully it's something that's able to carry us through to the end of the season.
I take everything you said about Cole there, and you're absolutely right. But it's been a rare appearance from that version of Cole, hasn't it, Quinny?
Yeah, I mean, he was on it last week. I mean, Joel mentioned the little duel with Hector. Now, obviously, I was there and not at the Giant Axe, so I was watching a lot of off the ball stuff. And him and Hector were having little battles off the ball for ages. And Cole was standing right up to him. And I don't think Hector's used to that. He's a big lad. You know, he's played at a high level. I think it was a £4 million signing from Reading, from Chelsea signing for £4 million at one time. And Cole, he scored that goal, which he's been, you know, unfortunately, he's not got as many as those this year because he got them left, right, and centre last year. But that was Cole back at his best. And as you say, Joel, I think buoyed by that last-minute winner against Wickham, which was tremendous, and you could see the whole of Morecambe there right behind him, and the whole Morecambe team and Cole just spurred everyone on, and he was right up for it last week, and it was just a fantastic performance. Again, that goal 10 minutes from time, just, you know, it's just Morecambe what we do, isn't it? We just don't make things easy for ourselves. You know, I'm a grey area watching Morecambe. That's just for watching Morecambe.
At least you've got it.
Yeah. It was just a great win and 2 great weeks, and you know, it's a hope that kills you. But if they could just carry on that on Saturday, that would be tremendous against what's going to be hopefully a sellout and a fantastic atmosphere.
Looking at the game, and we were watching it on iFollow, and there was a group of us watching it. We got together, and I'm being perfectly honest here. I spent the first 6-7 minutes of the game talking about Cole and saying, you know, it'd be great if he turned up and he did this, and then it was good that he scored that goal last week, but where's he been all season and blah 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 and and then he did what he did, and it was like, and that's I think it's important to mention the importance of so many games this season. We've had the chances and not taken them to score the first goal, and particularly away from home, we've always gone a goal down early on. So it makes a massive difference going a goal up early on, Joel.
Yeah, I think, I'll be honest, with our chances, we've actually outshot our expected goals, I think. So I'm not sure we can... I know, yeah. I was wondering how long it was going to take me to drop a bit of XG in there. But I think what we've failed to do at times, though, this season, particularly actually in this kind of little... The kind of bad run we had before we've kind of turned it around in recent years. We've had some decent play getting towards the opposition's final third, but it's been around there that we've not really had the kind of thrust and movement and ingenuity to really open teams up. I don't think we've really had that for a while since Phillips has departed, because his movement in the final third and the way he linked up was really, really important, and that helped make those openings. And we've not had that for a bit of a while. I think we've been trying to find a new formula with fitting Weir and Crowley in, and now Stockton kind of really upping it this past game has helped with that. But like you say, I think at the same time, yeah, it's an attacking thing, but also it's a defending thing. We've got to make sure that we're solid and we don't just kind of have soft goals that we concede, because that's happened a few times. I mean, look at Barnsley. Obviously, it was always going to be tough at Barnsley, but it's not easy when you kind of concede a bit of a cheap free kick on the edge of your area, and then don't track your man. Track your runner for the rebound from the free kick. You know, it just makes an easy goal and sets you off to a bit of a bad tempo, and it's frustrating because it just takes the sting out of the game. It relaxes the opposition. They can kind of play their game a bit more. They don't have to force the issue as much. They can maybe pick you. They can let you come onto them and then pick a few little holes that you might leave at the back. Whereas either keeping it tight or yourselves getting that early goal, it's a big thing. But I think it's probably worth actually following on from that. Something that Derek's kind of mentioned. I noticed this week in the Visitor and the Guardian about the fact that we're holding on to these, because I think we've dropped something. I think Opta released the stat. I think I can't remember what it is, but we've dropped a lot of points in winning positions in the past couple of seasons. So yeah, it's massive to be able to hold on to that as well.
So what you're saying is you're disagreeing with what I said, but then you're agreeing with what I said, really?
Yeah, there's
I
a
like
bit
what
of
you said.
disagreement, but like it's the specifics, because I'm like these things. I'm pernickety and annoying.
I just look at games I mean, and it's pertinent because I look at games like Lincoln away, and at Lincoln away we had a couple of chances and didn't take them, and then Lincoln scored, and then.
In fairness, I think Lincoln away they scored in the first 6 or 7 minutes. They just battered us, and then it was to get the equaliser that we
again. We had a chance on 3-4. First attack, we had a chance and didn't take it, and it's just like they score, and that's my point.
Yeah,
and it does make such a difference because and the one thing I'll say, and I agree with you, we've given away soft goals. I thought both the Charlton goals Saturday were soft, really soft, both preventable, and it's strange because we sat watching it, and immediately the knee-jerk reaction was everybody in the room was, Cooney, he's lost his man. And it wasn't. It was Faz. The guy peeled off and went round the back, and Faz just didn't go with him.
Yeah, was it the first one? It was Raksaki, wasn't it? Because he'd been playing on the right, and I think what he'd done is he'd been playing on the right, and he'd come across more towards the left-hand side. He drove forward with the ball, and then coming in from that side, I think it was just one of those where a man kind of, he's Suarez man on the right on that wing, but then when he moves off that wing, whose man does he then become?
Yeah, that's right.
You got to say fair play. It's good movement. It is.
But like you say,
being able to react.
It was a poor goal to give away, and I thought Fraser's goal was a poor goal to give away because we were in a situation where it was clearable, but we immediately tried to go goal side, and all he did was pull it back to him. And all of a sudden, he's got half a yard of space, and it was a good finish. I've no complaint. But as usual, it was squeaky bum time for the last 10 minutes. And when he held up 6 minutes, that was the longest 6 minutes of my life, that, Derek. I don't know what you were like in the commentary box.
No, the longest few minutes of any life was Coventry away. 5 years ago.
No, to be fair, and I will say this, Coventry away, I was doing commentary that day, and basically I said, if you're watching at home, basically both sides have got a gentleman's agreement. They shook hands with 20 minutes left and nobody went near each other.
What about the time when at Wembley when Bobby Madley blew the whistle for offside or something like that?
And we
all thought it was, yeah. And then the 30 seconds after that, he gave for the free kick to be lobbed into the area. That was a pretty horrific moment.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's a good point. So we'll move on. It's kept us in the mix. What we were hoping for midweek was obviously Cheltenham to do us a favour at Oxford and Bolton maybe to do us a favour, but in a backwards way, Accrington winning there has probably given them hope, which, looking at who they play on Saturday, Cambridge, means that if they beat Cambridge stay below us. If we can beat Lincoln, we stay above Aki, so it probably is good for us. But a viewer who shall remain nameless said Cheltenham were absolutely, utterly appalling and on the beach against Oxford. And that person called it 5-0 after 10 minutes when it was still 0-0, and it turned out to be 4-0. But like I said, they shall remain nameless. It was one of them where, sooner or later, it was going to go against us and make it even tougher, Joel.
Yeah, I was on a podcast last night with an Oxford fan, and he put it a bit more delicately, that it looked like Cheltenham were just going to sit back and play for a point. But I mean, look, Oxford's. I've been keeping an eye on Oxford, obviously, over the last few weeks, and under Manning, the results have improved. They've not got the win, but Manning's first game was against us. I didn't think they looked up to much, but they ground out for a point. They took the lead early on. Since Manning's taken over, they've lost 2 out of 7 games, which is an improvement. They'd only drawn the rest until last night, but they'd lost 2 out of 7. I was looking at the underlying numbers. They were looking decent. They were really unlucky to lose against Bolton. Bolton's keeper should have been sent off that day. They were quite unlucky to draw against Portsmouth. The Portsmouth goal was a worldy free kick from 25 yards. They've gotten a good draw against Sheffield Wednesday. They've done all right these last few weeks, and you kind of felt with the Cheltenham side, you might well have been on the beach, and it sounds like they were. And then obviously Forest Green coming up on Saturday. So if they hadn't got the win last night, you think they're probably going to get it this weekend. I think with these fixtures coming up and the improvement they've had under Manning, you just kind of think, you know what, I think they might pull away. And while it's nice to have them down there, I'd like to have hoped that they could have stayed down there and we could have dragged them into it a bit more. out of all the teams around us, they were the ones who were always probably going to pull away. So while it's frustrating on that front that they've pulled away, at the same time, it's not really thrown me off too much because I kind of expected them to anyway. I didn't really hold much hope of us catching them.
But looking at the Accrington result at Bolton, that was a bit unexpected, Quinny. But I mean, it's great for them because it's kept them in the mix.
It was unexpected, yeah. I think unexpected for them as well because they've really struggled. I think they've admitted to Kohler's interviews. They give everything, but they've not got a great deal. But they performed, pulled it out there on Tuesday night. But I'll just join at Oxford and MK Dons, Cheltenham. I think this is what annoys me a little bit this year is I think some of those teams that are bottom, they're no better than us.
No,
a better team than us. I don't think Port Vale are a better team than us or better squad of players than us. And talking of how games could have gone either way, we're talking 1 or 2 points end of the year. I spoke to Faz this week and we were looking at, point here, point there, what a difference. Max Melbourne hitting the crossbar and then 30 seconds later, Port Vale going up the field and scoring the only goal of an awful game.
Boxing.
Some of our worst performances away have been against, some of the poorest teams. I mean, MK Dons, that's the worst MK Dons team I've ever seen. And, we've lost 3 times against them this year without a goal scored. And those sort of games are the ones that your Sheffield Wednesdays, they're a different league than us. It's those games. And as you say, Cheltenham, I think Cheltenham are one of the worst teams I've seen.
Well, we beat them at home, but
again, lost away 1-0 again, another 1-0 away.
It was 1-0 away, and we had chances, and
didn't take. Didn't he late on?
To be fair, actually, I wouldn't say we had many chances at Cheltenham away. I thought Cheltenham away was our worst performance of the season. I think what Cheltenham did when we played them is they sit back and they say break us down, and we're not very good at that because we want to go, no, you break us down, and then we'll hit you on the counter.
But that's exactly what they did to us.
Yeah, that's what they did to us, and we really, really struggled. And I think,
but Kieran Phillips did it at the bar.
He did it at the bar very late on, but I thought that was a bit of he worked that for himself. I don't think it was necessary that we did a great deal to create chances as a team. But what's happened with Cheltenham basically in the last few months, they've got a relatively solid defence, if a bit uninspiring as a team. I don't think they're any better than us, apart from Alfie May just switched it on for about 2 or 3 months. Like you've seen the goals he scored against Peterborough, was it? And some of the other goals he scored, the winner against Fleetwood, absolutely unbelievable. And that's what's turned it around for them, really.
Yeah,
Cheltenham this year, what Cole Stockton was from Walker last year, hasn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah. And in fairness, Alfie May had a good year last year as well. And I think he's been injured for a lot of this season, but he's turned it round since he's come back from injury.
Well, his form's dramatically improved since Connor lifted him up and took him out of the way during the Mazuma game.
Maybe he just needed to have a little bit of a talking to.
Yeah, well, if you work it out, I think Alfie May would class that as altitude training. So I think it's done him some good. So moving on, good news about the Lincoln game. Party card sold out. I've yet to believe that every seat in the stand is sold out because we've been sold out about 3 times this season and there's still 200 seats left. So I don't know how that works. But I mean, if people decide to buy a season ticket for a kid and not take them, that's a bit crazy. But it is crunch time against Lincoln. We go back to the Lincoln game. We lost sort of 2-1. They've been up and down, but on a decent run until losing in the last week, Joel.
Yeah, I was actually on this podcast last night with a Lincoln and a Burton fan, and it doesn't sound like it was an inspiring game, which I didn't really expect it to be. With the 2 kind of mid-table teams, nothing much to play for. Burton a pretty tough grind at home.
Yeah,
Lincoln,
flicking through the Jet 2 brochures. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, thinking about what takeaway you might order later or something like that. But it sounds like it was a pretty uninspiring game. Lincoln, they're tough to break down. I think we know that they've gone to home park. They've taken the lead on the break after about 15-20 minutes. They've held it all game and gone a second goal up. That's really hard to do, especially at home park. They were great side Plymouth, but especially at home, they're really, really good. So to be able to do that you know what you're going to get them with them. That they're going to be tough to break down. I think what we need to avoid doing is we need to make sure that I thought what they did really well against us back in November, was it? They just came out of the blocks really, really quickly and they made sure they got on our faces and they got that early goal. I think it was a rebound from a free kick or something, but just doing, they got the free kick because of the pressure and the territory they had. I think Connor had already pulled off a couple of good saves. I think they basically kind of got on our faces, got that early goal, and then sat back, made themselves hard to break down. I know we had that short corner routine that we probably should have scored from, but aside from that, they were hard to break down, and we struggled to kind of turn a lot of territory in the final third into proper chances. But you'd like to think that maybe they might not quite be on the gas as much. Hopefully, keeping my fingers crossed. You never know what teams are going to turn. Remember Burton when they turned up last year, and we beat them 3-0. They were just diabolical because they were just on the beach, and it's a bit unpredictable with those kind of things. Hopefully, Lincoln will be the same, but at the end of the day, if we turn up with a similar intensity to the one that we had against Charlton last week, I think we'll have a pretty good chance and we'll be able to get at them. And if we can get that lead, they're not great. They haven't got them quite the sharpest attack. And if we can get that lead, they're going to think, oh, for God's sake. And, end of the season, nothing to play for. It might just give us that little bit of momentum to hopefully build throughout the match. But yeah,
you don't want to be getting an injury and you don't want to be getting an injury doing some daft tackle.
Exactly.
At Morecambe, where you have to cancel your summer holiday and go in and do physio all summer.
Exactly.
Do you, really?
Think about go. Marbella with the wife and kids. Come on, that's what you've got to think about.
But a similar intensity would be good, Quinny. First 10-15 minutes, I thought we pressed really well at Charlton, and I'm not suggesting we go gung ho, but that sort of high press and willingness to sort of close down. Obviously, we were, that's how Cole came about scoring, because he was running around intercepting balls and smash one in from 30 yards. I get the feeling it might be a tense affair Saturday with a what's going to be nearly a full house, Derek.
Yeah, I mean, they pressed really well. And I said to Derek after the game, it was like the Salford game, the away game a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
2 Ashford goals, but we pressed them from the start. We were tremendous. We stopped them playing. Did that against Charlton. I think because we let them play. When they beat us 4-1 a few weeks ago, we let them play so much. Derek took that on board, and they were totally different on Saturday. And they got one after 7 minutes. Arthur was nearly in for a second 3 minutes later, and we were all over them. And that intensity was fantastic. And it might be a different game Saturday, but it will be a full house. And all the fans will be right behind them. I was speaking to Faz for the programme this week, and he was saying, when the fans get right behind you, it makes such a big difference because it's so tight, the atmosphere there. It only takes 3,000 or 4,000 to make a real supporters sort of cauldron there to back you. And he loves it, and that's what they're hoping for on Saturday. I'm sure they're going to get it as well. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a nervous game. But again, I think if we get the first goal, that would hopefully just calm everyone down, and then and go from there. Hopefully.
Yeah, I can't stress enough that the difference in us scoring the first goal would immediately get the crowd on right behind them, and then after that, every tackle you make, every interception, every catch that Connor makes, every clearance that goes out for a throw in their half, everybody be clapping and right behind him. And you're right, it can make a massive difference from the simple fact that the players will get the feeling that, well, we might have 4,500 here behind us, but we do make quite a bit of a noise, Joel. Or do you just rattle your jewellery in the cheap seats?
Yeah, no, exactly. I'll be politely applauding a crunching tackle from Ryan Kearney or something. But yeah, like you say, like when he said, when it's that tight knit ground, when you pack it out, it really does make a noise. I mean, some of the grounds we go to this season, the MK Dons, it's massive. It's like 25,000 seater, but they barely get 7,000 in there, and it's just a bit like, I mean, lovely padded seats, but which is nice, but you're just there, and it's just a bit flat. Whereas, when the Mazoom is really rocking, you can really feel it. And to an extent, actually, I've enjoyed it when we've packed out the away end with away fans, because you get this back and forth end to end. Obviously, that's not going to be the case this Saturday because we're going to have home fans in that end, which even better. I know Lincoln, I think they've pretty much sold out their allocation, the seats.
Yeah, that's
about
excellent.
650.
650, yeah.
Their last away game of the season. Look, it's a faff driving from or getting from Lincoln to Morecambe, but they're packing it out. They'll be in good
The
spirits.
faff getting from Lincoln to just about anywhere.
Yeah, to be fair, Lincoln's just one of those places that's a bit of a faff to get to and from. But you know that they'll be. I'd like to think they'll be in good spirits, but not that bothered about winning. You get me? And
Yeah.
hopefully that'll
Yeah.
bleed into the team. But I think it's interesting talking about like being intense and getting that first goal, because it's such a hard balance to kind of get, because you want to be intense and you want to get at them and you want to get that first goal so you can build that momentum at the same time, knowing the kind of team that Lincoln are and how good they can be on the break and how good they are at holding on to leads. You do just want to be careful. You don't want to overstep the mark.
No.
Where you let them get that lead and they think, aha, we're going to turn up and upset the day here. Because I'll be honest, if I was in their position, I wouldn't mind upsetting a team. And when you get a goal, like, this is quite fun, isn't it? Just kind of like booting everything out of play and wasting time. It's kind of fun, isn't it? But yeah, so you don't want to be letting them get into that position. But at the same time, you need to be providing that intensity. So it's a difficult balance to strike, but with the form that Derek and the team are in at the minute, you back them to be able to kind of manage that situation, and hopefully they will.
The one thing I want to touch on is obviously 2 weeks ago in the Wickham game, wasn't really that much of it was a crunch game. We needed to win it to put ourselves in a position to be where we are today. Last week at Charlton, nobody expected us really to go there and win, although the team obviously had a plan and Derek's plan worked. We talked about it before the kickoff last week, and if results had gone against us last week, which they didn't last Saturday, and we hadn't have won at Charlton, if they had gone against us and we'd lost at Charlton, there was every chance that we could have been relegated. And that still stands this Saturday, Derek, in the fact that if results go against us and we don't beat Lincoln, we could find ourselves actually relegated. And as Mark Swindlehurst, our lovely matchday announcer, pointed out, he said, I'd rather get relegated away at Exeter, having a go, than at home in front of a home crowd in front of the Mazuma. What do you think about that, Derek?
Yeah, totally makes sense, doesn't it? You wouldn't want vision for all the fans to see. I mean, let's hope we won't. Let's hope we win both the games and we've got every chance. But yeah, I won't. If it's going to happen, then definitely away from home, especially 350 miles away in Exeter, somewhere down there. But I wouldn't want it to be at the Mazuma. You want the good times at the Mazuma, and if there are bad times, you want them away from home. That makes sense.
And I think it was a fair point that Swid's made there, and I sort of, we all sort of nodded sagely. But obviously, sometimes you can't always get what you want, Joel. I mean, a win would certainly keep us in the mix, and the right result between Accrington and Cambridge. But again, it's been out of our hands now we've known the last 4 fixtures that other teams are going to play each other, and there's no way, there's Accrington or Cambridge are going to get points. In fact, they both might get a point. So it is going to be tricky. I'm pretty sure that people on Saturday are going to be. I stood next to a couple of people against Wickham, and they were just glued to the phones the whole time, looking at what was going on. Not in the Premier League, not in the Championship, but in League One. They just kept refreshing the pages. And I was like, look, just don't worry about it. We've got to win this. It doesn't matter. And I'll be the same on Saturday. I'll be trying not to look at my phone. But it is difficult not to get embroiled in the whole thing, Joel, isn't it?
Yeah, it is tricky. I mean, it's a funny one this Saturday, because I think it'd be lovely if Forest Green beat Oxford. I don't think it's going to happen. Or if they at least take a couple of points of them. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but it'd be lovely. I think the ones I'm going to be watching out for are the MK Dons and Barnsley game, and obviously the Aki Cambridge game, because we need to catch MK Dons. Saturday, you'd think, would be the best opportunity to do it, because they've got Barnsley at home. Obviously, there's a school of thought that say Barnsley, they've got the playoffs in a few weeks. They might want to chill and relax and not kind of burn too much energy. At the same time, I think if you look at our playoff campaign, the thing that carried us through is I think we've won 6 out of our last 7 games, or something daft like that, or 5 out of our last 6, and the only one we lost was when Mellor was sent off against Bolton. And that momentum. I remember just looking back at the playoff campaign. A lot of what happened there was we didn't dazzle anybody with any particularly good football. We just kind of ground out wins because that's what you have to do at that point in the season in playoffs. And having that winning habit, it's important. And you'd think that Michael Duff he's a good manager and he'll want to drill that into his players that, they've had that defeat on Tuesday night against Ipswich. You kind of got to say fair enough, Ipswich are an absolutely brilliant side. And they don't want to let that derail them. They don't want to just teeter out their season and kind of go into the playoffs in bad form. They want to build up that momentum again. They want to build up those winning habits. So I'd like to think that they'll be at it. I'd like to think that Adam Phillips will be looking on from afar and thinking, I've got to do it for the Shrimps. But yeah, I think looking at that, there's a good chance that Barnsley might win that one. And if we win against Lincoln and Barnsley win, then we go above MK Dons and it's in our hands against MK Dons. Now, the other one is obviously Accrington versus Cambridge. And while on paper, initially, Accrington beating Bolton looks like a bit of a grim thing for us. It's actually worked out really quite nicely because we need Cambridge not to catch us. Accrington can't catch us if we win both our games. Unless they manage to overturn 6 or 7 goal difference or whatever it is, they can't catch us. So if we win both our games, obviously. So we could do with them beating Cambridge because if Cambridge lose on Saturday and we win, they can't catch us. Because the way that if we win both our games. So it'd be I'd love to see Barnsley win and Accrington win and us win, obviously, purely because that would then put it in our hands going the final game. I'd like to not be I'd like to go to Exeter and be able to think, right, we need to win. We don't need to think about anything else. We need to win.
Yeah.
I'd love that to happen. It might not happen. I've got a feeling that Cambridge versus Accrington is just going to be this manic high scoring draw for some reason. I think, what Accrington like, they're just going to gun for it a lot of the time. And Cambridge Sam Smith's is hitting a bit of form. He's grooving a little bit again. So I kind of feel it's going to be something daft like 3-3, which wouldn't be the end of the world. But I think Accrington beating Cambridge, that'd be really, really handy. And also, it would open things up for us to relegate Accrington on goal difference on the final day, which would be just very funny.
You're evil. Quinny couldn't possibly comment because he's obviously not biased at all because he's a Morecambe commentator on Radio Lancs and Radio Lancs cover Accrington. So that's right, Quinny, isn't it?
Yeah. I only think about Morecambe. I'm not worried about anyone else.
No, and I'm the same. And to be honest, we could sit here and wax lyrical about what we need to do at Exeter, but it doesn't matter a jot at the moment because we've got to concentrate on beating Lincoln, haven't we?
That's it. That's the challenge ahead of us. It's our next cup final. We had 4 cup finals. We've won 2 of them. Now we're on the next one. And it sounds a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. And we've just got to get the 3 points anyhow we can. I'd love to do it. I'd love to get a penalty, 89th minute penalty.
What's one of them?
I'm just dying for us to get a penalty this year because the penalties we've not been given are just, I can think there's probably 7 or 8 80%ers, 3 or 4 100%ers that we've not been given. And I know I sound like a bit of a broken record.
No. Quinny, they've been mentioned on here. And the one thing that I have said time and again when we've had a penalty turned down is that when you watch the Football League highlights on ITV, in our division the same weekend, there have been 2 or 3 that were softer, that top teams, Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich, Derby have had 8 penalties. And I don't think one of them's been a bloody penalty yet.
Well, Derby have had 4 against us in 2 games, And I don't think that's by accident. There's something in the psyche of some of the officials. They will deny that. I know they go to the cows come home. But there's something in the psyche that Ipswich had 2 against us in 1 game. Derby have had 4 against us. That's 6 penalties against us in 3 games with Derby and Ipswich. That doesn't come by coincidence. But that's another thing. We can't go long about it too long. But the penalties that we've not had, I'll say 3 of them have been absolutely horrendous decisions not to be given. The rest of them, I would have wanted them, and I would have expected them to be given against us, but they weren't.
Yeah, I agree, and I know after speaking with some of the lads, they all thought there was a definite pen on Cole at Plymouth when we'd just pull one back. and then about a minute later, Cole was like taken, and they reckon that was a penalty. But there you go, these things happen. We haven't had one yet. Who would take it anyway?
I thought there was one against Charlton in the first 15 minutes. I thought Faz was brought down in the box before they scored.
Really?
Could have made a massive decision. Yeah, you might not remember that one, but I spoke to Faz this week and I said, was that a penalty on you? He said, well, they did pull me down, but I'll never get them. They never give them against me.
No, he looks too big and scary to give penalties.
That's what he said. He said, I think I'm too big and scary to do that. But, it looks a clear penalty to me, and you probably won't even have spotted it.
Because if they have a conversation with Faz for 5 minutes, they realise he's actually not big and scary at all. He's lovely.
No, he's a cuddly bear, isn't he? Bless him.
Yeah.
So we've done Lincoln, and I just, the only thing I can do is encourage everybody to turn up, get behind the team. We can just do what we can do. We can't do any more. Quinny, I've asked twice and got a blank stare back, and I did this last week on the podcast, but they're not saying it. But we said last week we think Adam Mayer's not coming back this season. He's in some sort of boot, but the club are denying that. And I'm not trying to, it's just like, what's going on with the injuries, because he's been missed, hasn't he?
He's not been missed that much. We've won 2 games without him.
Well, yeah, true, but he still has been missed because
he's been brilliant. He's been tremendous.
Exactly.
I saw him with a boot on against Wickham. He wasn't there this week that I could see, so I was told it was just a precaution against Wickham. So
that's what I was told.
If he's fit for Saturday, it'll probably be only for the bench, because I don't think they'd look at changing a winning team that much.
No.
But what a substitute to have if he does come off the bench. Because
yeah, I hope so.
He's a star. Yeah. He's been an absolute star, that lad, and he's come from nowhere. And I love him to bits. I love his enthusiasm. I love the fact he doesn't care who's playing in front of 25,000 against Derby at his age. Because if that was me, I'd have been as nervous as hell and had jelly legs coming on the pitch, and it just didn't bother him at all. So hopefully he could come on. He could be the hero, because that would be a nice little story.
Well, the only thing I'll say is the one thing that we've learned about Adam is he's got a fantastic head on his shoulders. He's way beyond his years, isn't he?
Yes, he's got a tremendous left foot as well.
Yeah, which is always handy in this division. But, so we'll look forward to Saturday. Everybody get behind him. We can't do any more. I want to talk to you a bit now, Quinny. How long? Now, am I right in thinking you took over doing Radio Lancs when we got in the conference? Is that right?
It was the first game in the conference, so it's about 28 years now, and it was all because someone didn't turn up that day. Len Chinnery didn't turn up. Len Chinnery. For some reason, he just didn't turn up, and the guy Havard, who's now on Sky Sports, asked me if I'd do it, and I hated it for about 2 years. I hated every minute of it, every second of it. I used to come out in cold sweats every time they came to me. But over the last 28 years, I've sort of got used to it, and but yeah, I've done it a long time, hoping to get the 29th year in League One. So,
yeah, I was hoping you were going to say, I've been doing it for 28 years and I've hated it for 27 and a half. But it's all right now. It's a strange one, isn't it, really? Because obviously we've come all the way from the conference as fans. And obviously being fortunate to do the I Follow commentary with you for about 12 seasons, where we shared a lot of lifts and had a lot of laughs. And I know you have a love of people leaning on shovels on the motorway when there's a contraflow, don't you?
Oh, I do. How's that ball when it fixed that guy with a wooden brush?
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. I was like, because I was thinking, it's mild-mannered Derek Quinn, and if everybody could see you swearing at people on the motorway, what's he doing? It's nice to know you've got it. Because the strange thing is, and I've always said this, we were quite lucky on the I Follow thing because we could sort of get away with a lot more than you can on Radio Lancs. So I think sometimes on the journeys there, you were getting your anger out, venting it at people leaning on shovels rather than a poor defensive display.
When you ask my wife anything about roadworks, the steam valve is off.
But you've seen some changes. Obviously, you've been editing the programme for 1,000 years as well, haven't you?
Well, yeah, and I think people sort of forget as well. I've been doing The Visitor for 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
My first season, we won the promotion from the Northern Premier League to the conference. So that's even a season back beyond that. So
that's so it's all down to you then.
Well, I didn't want to say that. You said it for me, so thanks for that, Freez. I would have put that, but yeah, my first season, first game away was Buxton away, first game.
I think we won 2-0.
Yeah, and that was my first game for the visitor, so I've been doing it more or less full time for 30 years. Love it. It's the best. It's now a hobby as such. It's the best hobby in the world. I've been so lucky. I've seen so many things. To be at Wembley twice in the way we were, to go on the pitch twice, to interview people, and I couldn't buy the experiences I've had, and I love it. And I just love the football club, as you know, Freez, and I just want us to succeed at everything that we do.
And so we'll go back to the programme. You've seen some changes in the programme as well, haven't you? While you've been doing that, it's been bigger, smaller, loads of photographs, I mean, I do not envy you doing that, because I know how many emails you used to send out a week chasing people for copy, etc.
Yeah, the chasing's the hard bit. I mean, I don't chase so many people now. The hard bit now was they went to a designer this year, and the designer's made it even harder work for me than when I was designing it myself. But that's another thing that will change. But yeah, in programmes, I mean, I've always loved the programme. And Steve Middlesbrough was one of my first heroes. When I was about 10 or 11, he was editing the Morecambe programme. So every credit to Steve, and then Martin Shaw and Sean in between, who did it all, because it is hard work. And I love it, and I hope the club keeps it going. I know a couple of clubs have stopped them, but then a couple of clubs have stopped them and brought them back. So I know not as many people buy them these days, but yeah, I do love it. I do love having something in my hand like that we can show. And it is hard work. It's a lot of hours, I must admit. Each programme takes me about 40 hours overall. But we're in a good place now. We get some great coverage and some great stuff. We've got a full-time media team that help out as well. So yeah, it's massive. I love it.
Yeah, you say you love it until the fixtures come out, and then you think, oh God, we're at home on a Saturday and we're home on a Tuesday night, and you've got 2 to do.
Yeah, it is tiring. Like every second Wednesday I can't go out because I've got to make sure it's done. So yeah, but it is what it is. You sign up for these things, and you just get on with it, don't you? And again, it's great, and hopefully people still buy it and still enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to point out that obviously, people think, oh, Derek Quinn, he's got it easy, but everything you do, I'm trying to give you credit for it here, but you're not willing to take it. That's fair enough. In that case, the programme's crap. There you go. How's that?
I'll give credit. He certainly has hard work chasing people up for words, because I've had a few ones.
The thing is, Freez, I've got a full-time day job. It's a big job at NHS. It's tough. It's 10-hour days. Driving to Southport there and back every day. So by the time you get
to where?
Southport.
You mean Southport?
Yes, that one. Yeah. So drive there.
Southport. Yeah.
So they're 10, 11-hour days, and to go back and do the programme, it is hard work. It is a proper labour of love, as is the commentary and as is everything else that we do.
Probably the good thing is you've got a very understanding missus, and you probably find when you stop doing all this and spend time with her, she'll actually hate you.
Probably will, yeah. She'll probably want me to go back out and do it, go and do it for AFC Fylde or Ren Rovers or something. Just get anywhere, get out of the house.
The goal, the Neil Warnock, Roy Hodgson cliche.
Yeah. So final thing for Quinny here, and I know this has become a bit of an issue, because people often say, and I see it myself, you do an interview with Derek every week after the game, and loads of people say, why does Quinny not ask this? Why does Quinny not ask that? Why do you not do that? So it's your chance to explain, what your remit is when you're doing the Lancs thing.
Well, you'll sort of see if you look close into it. The first question is always a very open question. It's not a set question. It's a very open question. What did you think of the game? So you're not saying that was rubbish, Derek. That was brilliant. That was fantastic. What about Amy? It was awful. They were rubbish, weren't they? Yeah, just put it out there and it's all to do with the clips that you can get. So you've got some clips for the radio for the day and then the week after. So you do the open question about the game, and then largely that's it about the game that you just had. Then you're looking forward to the next game. You usually ask about one individual, how they did, so they can get clips from that during the week about the individual. Then you get clips about the next game. If there's a game on Tuesday, what about that? So then you've got clips for the next game from that. And if there's a certain issue, Tim Padfield will probably ask more of the questions in the pre-match about things than I would ask after a game. And sometimes, emotions are high, and some managers, you have to sort of gauge the room as you go on, and I've seen some young journalists in the past. I saw one many years ago to Mickey Adams when Port Vale, they won promotion that year easily in League Two. His first question was, well, you should be beating teams like Morecambe, shouldn't you? And Mickey totally flew at this Radio Stoke reporter, and I don't want to be the victim of that and he was right to do it as well, because that's just pure arrogance. And, and that's not...
Although Charlton's manager came out and said exactly the same thing last week.
Well, yeah, he did, but he wasn't asked. He wasn't asked you should be beating teams like that. No. It wasn't me saying to Derek, oh, you should be beating teams like this, because that's just arrogance on my part if I said that, I think. And so I just give him the chance to have a very open question. And, you don't really want to fall out with managers unless you're really, really in a position where things are broken down. And that, luckily for me, that never has at Morecambe. They've been good.
No. And I think it's important for you to sort of, explain that quite rightly, Radio Banks are looking for sound bites, aren't they, that they can use through the week, and that's why you ask what you ask.
Yeah, and every now and again we'll ask, you've lost 7 in a row away from home now. What's that down to? So instead of saying you're rubbish away from home, you sort of ask the question, you couch the same question in a bit of a different manner, and I think that's how it normally works.
And it's funny because you go back to Jim Bentley, you ask Jim an open question and you get 20 minutes, don't you?
I've got to make a brew. I won't even know for most of the answers. Only because the video I'm now, I'm still there. I know Jim was famous for his non-brevity answers.
Yeah, you're right. And it always used to amuse me because I've been thinking, I always think, I've got 2 or 3 questions. And I would like, and by the time we finished speaking, I was like, A, I've forgotten what I wanted to ask, and B, I think he's answered it anyway, so it didn't really matter. So there you go. So moving on, thanks for that, Quinny, and thanks for coming on tonight. I really do appreciate it, and so does Joel, because obviously we haven't had your... I want your take on the season as a whole now, because obviously we are where we are. It's pretty obvious, we're in a situation where, we need to win the last 2 games and all that, but looking at the on-field and looking at the off-field, we seem to have been in a higher division, but have stepped back to the sort of crisis club that we were maybe 3 seasons ago, don't we?
Well, I did say that a few weeks ago, that despite 2 years in League One, we seem to be back where we were, as you say, a couple of years ago with the off the field things. And I'm sure we'd all, whatever league we're in, we just want to be, a solvent club with backers and in a good place. We're probably not quite there at the minute, as we all know. We're not quite sure what's happening, and I'm hoping that gets sorted out. And it needs to get sorted out for everybody as soon as it can be, because it's no good to anybody being where we are. And it just seems a bit of a shame that we've had those 2 years in League One, and we've not moved on with that off the field stuff as much as anyone of us would have wanted to or would have liked. But Freez, let's be honest. When we first started watching Morecambe in front of 200 people with grass bankings, if you mentioned we were playing Derby one week, Portsmouth the next,
yeah, you're right.
People would have laughed at us. That's the truth. The younger fans now, because I'm old, there's people watching now who weren't even born when I started covering Morecambe as a journalist. I've been there since I was 11. I've been there for 40 odd years, watching Morecambe play football, and for me, it's just a silly dreamland, really. There's not a heaven and hell's chance I thought would ever be in League One. So no. I'm loving the dream. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And if we can stay there for another year, which I hope we can, hopefully then we can maybe build on and take that next step. And that next step might be, let's finish 17th next year.
Yeah.
And that's and talking of the season, and I mentioned it before, I'm a little bit disappointed because I expected to be down in that bottom third. But Cheltenham are no better than us. I don't think Port Vale are better than us. MK Dons, it's probably the worst MK Dons team I've ever seen. Oxford were poor. Forest Green were poor. There's teams around and about us that are no better than us. And I'm thinking, if Jake Taylor had scored at Portsmouth, if Cole had scored at Portsmouth in the home game when we're 92nd minute and we had 3 against 2.
Yeah. But
I'm sure elsewhere, everywhere else, they'll all be saying the same. Everybody will be saying exactly the same.
Yeah, and it's interesting, your take on the off-field stuff, because obviously what's come out today is that the club have released a statement saying that Sarbjot Johal has guaranteed the wages for this month, because obviously we're at that time again. We're at the end of April, which is a positive. but people will be asking, Joel, people will be asking, well, is this, is this another episode where he's putting money in vicariously because he wants to buy the club? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's doing the right thing. He is doing the right thing because he's guaranteeing the wages. And obviously, is that Jason trying to? But I don't know. It's difficult to tell. We know for a fact, that the people in power do listen to this podcast. So, it's good that Sabjot's done that, and it is a positive because we're not going into 2 crunch games with no wages, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to quote the wording directly, they've made a further significant contribution into the club this week that enables the team to focus on key games ahead of us. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those where, look, obviously there is some cash to burn. Otherwise, the money he wouldn't have the money to put in. At the same time, if it's there, why can't you prove it to the EFL? It's just, if it's like, that's the issue and that's the holdup. And if it's there and it's legitimate, it can be proved to the EFL, then great. Let's get this thing going. But at the moment, this kind of dynamic of goodwill loan, who knows what, I don't know what the structure of these payments are, obviously, but it's not really a sustained. How long can it go on for, really? And it's good, like you say, that the money's been put in this month to help things along. At the same time, really, this business needs resolving whichever way. And it's just frustrating that if there is money there, then why can't it be? Why can't the EFL test be passed? And it is frustrating. So yeah, hopefully that I keep saying again, hopefully there is a conclusion reached to that quite soon.
Well, I think just to recount what I was saying before I think the infrastructure of the club is much, much better. We're in a much better place. I think Ben Sadler and his team, I think they've done a really, really good job. And I think like Michael O'Brien and the team that he does, they're in a far better place than they were. That club is busy every day now. The work it does for the community now is growing and growing all the time. So there are so many positives to the club behind the scenes as well that sometimes get forgotten about. It's just as Joel just said, can we just get this ownership sorted out and then we can move forward and move on, then everyone together. Because Morecambe, we've done it all together over the years. There's been such a togetherness to get us to where we are.
Yeah.
Any backward steps I would hate to see, but sometimes you have to take a backward step to go forward again. But as long as everyone realises that the behind the scenes work continues and there's some great people at that club.
And I think, like I said, we'll probably touch on this in the last podcast of the season because we know the outcome of what league we're going to be in. But it is important that we are in the highest position that we possibly can be because, as it's been delicately put this week, Derek Adams has guided us to our highest position ever in the Football League. And that was last season. And if we survive again, it'll still be, if we manage to finish one place lower, it's still our second highest position ever. But obviously, we all want that stability that we're craving. We all want owners who are going to come in. And I don't want it. None of us want, it'd be great if it was, Hollywood stars coming in and doing what they're doing at Wrexham. But when all's said and done, somebody who's going to come in and settle the ship and make sure we have a decent squad and we back the manager in whatever's going to happen next season, that's all we can ask for as fans, surely.
Yep, definitely. Just get someone in there who will help solidify the club, take it forward, and let's get some stability again like we had for the past couple of years, mainly.
Yeah, it would be nice. Joel, have you got anything from the Trust before we sign off?
Not too much, just obviously a lot of people have asked for it, and yes, it is happening. The flag will be out on Saturday, which is
good.
Nice to be able to tell people because it's very, very cool. I know. Unfortunately, the people actually doing the hard work making the flag go around don't actually get to appreciate it quite in its full glory. But it looks amazing, and yeah, it's a great way of getting the atmosphere up. I imagine there's a player coming to Morecambe and seeing that for the first time. You think, but yeah, I didn't know they did that here. So
yeah, I'm reliably informed because I've seen the pictures. It does look magnificent, but I'm usually underneath it, so I can't see it.
But no, yeah, it does look fantastic. So yeah, that should be out on Saturday. So yeah, that'll be really good, and hopefully we can just really ramp the atmosphere up.
Well, the only thing I can say is obviously thanks to you, Quinny, thanks to Joel for coming on as per usual. I'm sincerely hoping that we're in a situation where next week we will still be talking about the fight for survival, and I just wonder if we are in a fight for survival. I wonder if Ben's planning if he's got traveller's choice on speed dial, trying to get a few coaches together, because I'm sure if they put a few coaches on, we'd fill quite a few to go to Exeter. And as we know, should we need it, Exeter have sold out their home end, and they're wanting to sort of like partition the away end so that they can have some of that. But obviously, if we're still in a dogfight, it could be we might be taking 300-400 down there. You never know. Let's hope we're talking about that next week. And before anybody tells me, I know it's the wrong badge behind me. I know it's the old cartoon prawn, as people like to call it. But I switched my Mac on at 8 o'clock, or rather, I didn't, because it blew up. So I'm on the iPad and didn't have time to change. The last time I used this screen setting was probably about 2 years ago. So it's because I'm on the iPad. So sorry, it's the old badge, but it's more up to date than some. So this has been ShrimpNet number, I don't know. Joel can put that in later. Thanks for listening. Get yourself down on Saturday, cheer the lads on, and fingers crossed when we next talk, we will be talking about Coach Loads of us going to Exeter on the final day for the final battle. Fingers crossed. Thanks for listening.